Hi, Frank. Hi. How are you doing, Frank? How are you?
Hello, Prasoon. I'm fine. I hope you are well too.
That's great. I want to introduce Frank to all of the viewers of our channel. Frank is the official representative of the Center for Conservation of Indian Culture in European Union. And today we are going to talk with Frank about the situation concerning Indian culture in Germany, because Frank he is a citizen of Germany, and he has been living in Germany. As far as I know, Frank, you have been living in Germany for a very long time, and you were born in Germany also.
Yes, Prasoon. Thank you very much for this beautiful question. Regards to all of our listeners and viewers worldwide. I'm a German citizen. My hometown is Berlin, the capital city of Germany, in which I was born in the year of 1963. So quite a long time.
Yeah,
A time of
span of time.
division between two parts of Germany, two parts of Berlin, due to very historical events in connection with the Second World War. And this will bring us back to India, I believe, because uh, we will speak about a bit
Exactly.
about
Speak
India.
about Indian
We
culture. Yeah.
talk about your home country, about my home country, and the connections which connect our two peoples.
Exactly. I would like to tell the viewers that this interview is going to be really interesting. As Frank said, that we are going to discuss the overall scenario concerning the Indian culture in Germany, Europe, and obviously the similarities maybe even between the cultures of Germany and India, and a lot of other interesting things. So I would like to begin with my first question, Frank. Honestly speaking, like, what is the how popular is Indian culture in Germany, in Berlin, maybe? What's the how people react to Indian culture?
Thank you very much. Very good question, Prasoon. In my view, as I see it, India and Germany have a very long tradition of
Hmm.
their uh, international relations, and the Indian culture has been brought to Germany mainly through the scientific researchers, through the studies of holy books of the Oriental authors. Uh, I can only mention one name, which is very popular in India as well as in Germany. This is Max Müller, a 19th century German researcher and Indologist. He was born in the German city of Dessau, which is in the middle of Germany. He moved to Oxford to become a professor of Oriental Studies, and he was the first German national who translated the Rig Veda into English language, published it in England, and gave a lot of lectures on Oriental studies, including Sanskrit. He translated many scriptures of Indian origin and made it known to the world. Um, that is one part of Indian-German relations. And today, the Goethe Institute, which is the German Foreign Cultural Relations
Hmm.
organization, has a number of institutes being based in India, in Delhi, uh, Hyderabad, and other places, and they are named Max Müller Bhavan in order to remind us of this great gentleman
That's an
who supported actually, who brought knowledge about the Indian holy scriptures to Europe. Uh,
interesting.
but more than that, we had Yogananda, Vivekananda, we had Rabindranath Tagore, we had, of course, Mahatma Gandhi, who all were in touch with Germany partly traveled to Germany and brought knowledge to the Western countries. And I personally must say Indian culture is very much popular in Germany due to yoga, because Germans, like maybe every other people in the world, are very active. They like nature. We have a wonderful, beautiful country, including many seas and lakes. We have the seaside. We have mountains. Everybody wants to be outside in the countryside, and do sports, etc. And maybe in the beginning of the 20th century, there was a certain movement in the German upper class to go out into nature, to do physical exercises, and it all became known. It became known as culturism, because people thought it was better to be sportive, to make some movements, and later, of course, when yoga became very popular as a kind of physical exercises in Germany, especially in Western Germany, we had a boom of so-called yoga clubs or little circles where people tried to get to know the science of yoga as a spiritual system and as a system of physical exercises. So in Berlin, we have lots of little yoga clubs, and I'm very proud to be a member of one of the most popular and most, I would say, sophisticated organizations, which has been set up by the president of the International Cultural Spiritual Organization, Shri Prakash Dham, whose main center is based in Moscow. But in my opinion, it's very important to know that this organization is not just a place for physical exercise. It has a leader who is trying to make spirituality, the knowledge of how God, or the knowledge of God, can be combined with our daily human life,
Yes.
to spread this very old science in the world. And we are, I must say, as Germans, we are very pleased to have our little ashram, our little spiritual center here in Berlin since the year of 2005, when Shri Prakash Ji made his first trip to Berlin.
That's a lot of information, Frank. And I would like to ask you my second question. When you interact with people and you talk to them about Indian culture, what are some perceptions that they have in their mind, which are sort of a majority of the people might think, for example, as you mentioned, yoga is Germany. But are there some other interesting things about India that these people have certain things in their mind, like, and it's interesting to see the majority of the people, like, do they have the same things, or are their thoughts about India, are they wrong or are they right? And what are the perceptions about India for German people? What is the first thing that comes to the mind of a German person when he thinks about Indian culture, about India? Is it yoga or is it something else too?
Of course, I think yoga is the main pattern. It's really a sign which we can symbolize India with, and the Indian nation. India as a whole is really connected with yoga. And German people, if you ask them what is the most well-known symbol for India, they will probably say yoga and the Taj Mahal, which is truly a
one of the seven wonders. Yeah, at least it was.
Not only for Germans, but for the whole world. It's a sign of true love of a husband to his wife, and as well, yoga is. It's all about love. If we take it, if we take the essence of this spiritual science, I think you will agree that love is one of the main features of every spiritual science, of every religion, of every belief. And if I talk to people in my circle, to my friends about India, everybody can add a little piece of the great, you see, picture. One is speaking about the Himalayas, about the mountains. The other is telling me what a beautiful country, what a colorful country. Others say, oh, what a poor country. The next says, the most rich people in the world are living in India. All this is true, I think, and there are so many different aspects, so many different colors, as I said, in the big puzzle, which is India. I personally got a first impression of India as a little German boy, not so little. I already was a school student when my parents worked as teachers at the German embassy school of the German Democratic Republic. My father was the school director in the 1980s. And at that time, I was invited to India for 2 weeks during February and March. And it was my first trip to an Asian country. I was immediately amazed of the beauty of the temples, of the of Delhi, of the Red Fort, all the nice places, the historical buildings. We made a trip to the Taj Mahal in Agra, of course, and later to the countryside and little mountains near to the Himalayas in those quite far away years. But the first impression which I had from India was the smile of the housekeeper of my parents, an Indian gentleman who came to me, hugged me, and said, "Welcome to India." He was very kind, and I believe Indian people in general, as I can say also about the Russian people or many other peoples, they are very kind, very open, and you will never meet some, you see, aggressiveness or some bad questions. They are very open, very interested, and you will easily find, you will easily make friends. That's I personally like about India.
That's great. That's great, Frank. I like the way this interview is going because you're very honest and you're speaking from your heart. So the people will like it a lot, 100%. I'm sure about it. Frank, I also noted down one thing, that you were saying that your interest in Indian culture, it obviously began from childhood when you, like the story that you just narrated from your life. But you also mentioned the name of Shri Prakash Ji, the president of the Indian Cultural Center in Germany, Russia, India, and many other countries. So how did you meet him? And so how did your spiritual journey begin? And how did you meet Shri Prakash Ji?
Yes, Prasoon, first of all, I would like to reciprocate the compliment back to you. I like your manner and your type of interacting with your friends and your circle. Regarding your question, how I got to know Shri Prakash Ji, who became my spiritual teacher, our spiritual father and teacher. It was early in the year 2003 or four. It was in 2004 when I came back from a trip to India. Mm-hmm. One of our friends told us that he met a very fine person in Moscow, a gentleman of Indian origin who was a spiritual teacher. And at that time, I couldn't immediately go to Russia, but my wife was invited to participate in an Agni Puja ceremony, a fire ceremony, which was given by Shri Prakash Ji on his ashram near to Moscow. And she was very impressed by the whole ceremony, by the spiritual atmosphere, came back, told me about it, and I truly wanted to get to know more about this yoga teacher. And a short time later, a group of friends of mine organized a trip to Germany for Shri Prakash Ji, and he made a few statements, we had a few meetings with him where he introduced his science of yoga, his view of what yoga means as the old Vedic knowledge of God. And I was really amazed because I didn't, I must say, during the time of my childhood and youth, I was brought up in a, I wouldn't say atheistic manner, but there was not much speaking about God or religion. It was rather neutral. And until that moment, when I met Shri Prakash Ji, I didn't have an exact wish, or not. There was not an inner feeling that I would need a teacher. Mm-hmm. But in the very moment when I was given the opportunity to be interviewed directly by Shri Prakash Ji, so we had an individual meeting in the house of our friends. I saw his eyes, his really, very kindness, his kindness, the kindness he was eluding, it was amazing. There was a feeling inside my heart that this man is very good, and that I will start a relationship with him for a very long time. And now I can say, after more than 15 years of acquaintanceship with Shri Prakash Ji, that he became a teacher for me. More than that, there is a kind of relation between two hearts that cannot be explained by words. And the thing is, if you dig a bit deeper into maybe any religious path or any spiritual way of life, you will have to learn a lot of things. The one part is the rituals. There might be some rules and some laws you have to obey. But the most amazing thing, the most attracting thing about yoga, which I received from Shri Prakash Ji was that he is a real master of yoga who can be personally approached, who's giving his time, who's giving lectures on an individual basis and on bigger auditoriums, who's always ready to answer questions, who's giving care to every of his disciples. If you want, are granted discipleship by heart, I must say. There's no monetary, no financial necessity. That it's just an interconnection between two people. Then you understand that this is a kind of value which cannot be compared to any other material value. It's a spiritual, an emotional value, and you will find out later. And I must say, until now, I haven't found out finally, but it is giving you a feeling of inner balance. You can, if you understand that beside the normal yoga exercises, which are asanas, different type of physical fitness exercises, you can learn to control your mind, which is very important to get more energy, to do your job in the right way, or to cope with different difficult situations, or with uncertain people, or with you call it karma maybe, or because you asked what Germans think about India. Of course, the word karma is very important.
Also
everyone who speaks about India and yoga. But what is also very interesting, if you get in touch with Shri Prakash Ji, he's speaking about yoga as a science, but he's doing it in a very human way, in a way everyone can understand it properly. And he's never forcing you to do something. He's never demanding you have to do it that way or that way. I like the soft manner and the easy way to approach any type of person, any type of human being, in which situation he or she may be ever. Yeah.
Yes.
One can be very rich, the other is not so successful, is in difficulties maybe, but he will explain you exactly what is the aim, what is the goal of your life, or what should it be, yeah, and why are we here? What is the purpose of this life? So many questions, and on every question, thanks God, Shri Prakash Ji has an answer you will be thinking about a long time, and it will help you. So I hope I could answer.
Interesting. No, that was really elaborate and really interesting to listen to this. It's actually a lot of this information is, I think, very important for the new people who don't know about spirituality, who have not met Shri Prakash Ji yet. When they're going to listen to you, they're going to feel your words, because you're actually they will understand much better what is the role of a spiritual guru in any person's life. I have one more question, Frank. As I have understood, you're not the only disciple in Germany. There are a lot of disciples in Germany, other European countries, and you also told me before that a lot of them, Germany being the center of European Union, a lot of people from different countries in Europe, they come to the center in Berlin. What are the activities that the center, I must say, used to do before the pandemic, because right now, obviously, everything is closed due to the crisis that we are facing. But what was the usual what were the usual activities that the center conducted before everything was, I mean, before the pandemic struck?
Yes, Prasoon. Starting from the year 2005, when we had the first little meetings with Shri Prakash Ji once or twice a year in Berlin, now our spiritual center has grown into a very active place. We have, of course, organized every Indian holiday, every festivity, like the Deepavali, or let's say the New Year, the Christmas holiday. We do all the Indian important festivities. We have on special occasions. We have satsangs televised directly from the main ashram in Russia to Germany on every Saturday. We are very pleased to have visitors, not only from Berlin, but from the whole of Germany, and especially when Shri Prakash Ji is spending time in Germany. He's usually residing in our German center in Berlin, giving satsangs and meditations. And during these festivities or during these satsangs, we have guests, or we have had guests from the Baltic states, from Germany's neighboring countries, Switzerland, Austria, of course from England. We welcome friends from our other spiritual centers, which are located in London, in Vilnius, in Lithuania. Of course, our friends from Russia, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan. We are really an international community, I would say. We are not only Germans here in Berlin, because Berlin itself is a very international city. I'm of German nationality, but it doesn't mean that there are only Germans. We have Russian-speaking people living in Berlin. We have friends from other European countries who have resided over to Germany, from Switzerland, from England, from the United States, Romania, former Yugoslavia, and many other countries. So I think if we speak about spirituality, then nationality is second. We are all a human family, and this is one of the main principles, I think, which we need so much now. Unfortunately, we are all confronted with this, I would say, very demanding situation regarding the coronavirus pandemic. It's a global thing, and I'm very pleased that we nevertheless have a connection through the internet, we can talk online, and I very much hope that thanks to our spiritual possibilities and through our daily practice and the advice from our teacher, we will overcome all the difficulties, and we truly will be able to make an impact in our families, in our societies, in our countries, wherever we are.
The most important thing that you said just now, that all of us are human beings, first of all, and we should try to live like a big family, humanity that we are. and nationality, indeed, and religion, and all these things are always, according to me, also, I totally agree with you. They're secondary things. And first of all, it's important to be a good person because, see, I'm an Indian, you are German national, but we have so much in common. We have our spiritual master Shri Prakash Ji with us. We have an interest towards yoga. So therefore, I think that some of the basic values are always have to be present in every human being. Kindness, love, respect, compassion. They should be present in everyone. So I totally agree with you on that one. I've also heard about your trip to Geneva, Frank. I think it was you even spoke in the main hall of the United Nations during the Human Rights Conference on the 10th of March. As I've heard from a lot of people about this speech that you gave in the United Nations, that it was pretty good, and that a lot of delegations present in the United Nations, they have shown a lot of interest to the problem that you were discussing. As far I've heard about this problem, it's correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's about the attacks of a certain radical named Alexander Dworkin on the ashram of Shri Prakash Ji, who, as we already said, is also the official leader of Hinduism in Russia. And this Dworkin is attacking and slandering Hinduism, Shri Prakash Ji, and so on and so on. And you spoke about it. So how was all that? I mean, how was Geneva? How was the United Nations? How the people reacted to this issue? Just, it's really interesting to know, actually.
Yeah, thank you, Prasoon. First of all, I would like to thank our spiritual teacher, Shri Prakash Ji, for asking me to represent him at the United Nations in Geneva in March of this year. Exactly, it was the 43rd Human Rights Council session, which took place starting from February to April. On the 10th of March, there was a big discussion regarding different matters, different issues. The speech which I delivered was concentrating on cases of religious persecution through the example of Shri Prakash Dham, the Indian Cultural Center. And as you already mentioned, Shri Prakash Ji is the official leader of Hinduism in Russia. And unfortunately, he has been facing attacks on his reputation and safety by an individual whose name is Alexander Dworkin. In Russia, Alexander Dworkin is representing Ratsirs, a Russian organization which is unfortunately operating with scare tactics against the Hindu community in Russia. I spoke about that. I made it clear to the conference, which took place in the main assembly hall of the United Nations in the UN office in Geneva. I made it clear to the audience that our spiritual teacher, Shri Prakash Ji, has been severely defamed. There were cases of defamation on the internet. There were lots of fake news in the media, and there were even individual threats against Shri Prakash Ji and his family members, which is absolutely non-acceptable. It's slightly saying very concerning that a representative and a leader of the Hindu community is not regarded as equal to the Christian or the other religious communities being present in Russia. So there is a lot of work to be done. And in the speech, I have also mentioned that Mr. Dworkin has associates in the media. and that he uses these connections to threaten the Hindus in Russia. And our organization managed to organize a petition on change.org in support of Shri Prakash Dham. This petition has collected more than 60,000 signatures, which was a big success. That's why I'm very pleased that our organization was invited to be present at the United Nations. This special conference was organized by the General Assembly of the United Nations, the highest organ of the United Nations worldwide. And I can only believe that through diplomatic measures and more negotiations in the relevant countries, not only in Russia, but also in European countries like France, Belgium, Germany, Italy, and many others, we will have in the future a situation where there's no doubt that Hinduism or Sanatan Dharma in all of its communities and facets and groups will be recognized, will be fully recognized. We have Sanatan Dharma, or Hinduism as it is called now, as the probably most ancient religion in the world. And why is it so difficult to make a fully recognized, you see, approval issued by the governments of India and Russia to make clear Hinduism and the community of Hindus is a rightful organization in Russia, with all the human rights, the rights of spiritual choice being guaranteed and described in the official laws. So that was the reason why I was sent to Geneva. I'm very happy that we made a successful statement, also declaring that the Russian Hindus would like to have a temple, which is not the case now. We would like to have a temple in Moscow or inside Russia. And we also would like to see Russian Hindus to have their religion officially recognized by the government of the Russian Federation. This is, I think, a very clear and just claim that should be repeated again and again on all levels which are possible to access. And here I can stress again that it is very good on the one hand to be very active on such platforms like the United Nations or your presence at the European Organization for Security and Cooperation last year, if I'm right, in Poland, and other levels. So we would like to ask for more understanding by the people who are in politically relevant positions to show that we are really one family. If we are one family of nations, then we should recognize that every human being has a right to freely choose his belief and to live freely, believing in God or not believing in God, but to choose his spiritual path, choose his temple, and to be given the right to build his life based on a religious approach. Okay. So from my point of view, I think it was very important to make this statement, as there was a brief meeting with the Indian delegation. We managed to hand over a letter addressed to the delegates by the UN, issued by Mr. Shri Prakash, yourself. It was a very personal letter describing the full picture of the situation surrounding attacks and persecution against Hindus in Russia. And we handed over this statement to the Indian delegation, to the German delegation at the United Nations in Geneva, as well as the delegation from Norway. So I asked these three representatives personally to forward the materials to the relevant ministries of foreign affairs in Delhi, Berlin, and Oslo, which they promised to do, sure that these materials and press releases were sent out to all the delegations of the countries being present at the United Nations office in Geneva. So, Prasoon, I'm sure that this information has been studied and already being analyzed at the relevant levels, and we can now prepare further activities in order to approach the Russian government.
That's a lot of work, actually, Frank. I mean, that's not a one day's work. I think you were there for more than 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, something like that, because it's a lot of work done. I can tell you that as soon as your presentation was over in the United Nations, I actually got contacted by one of my friends who works in the Ministry of External Affairs in India, and so it's just what I'm talking about is how everyone is actually listening to this whole issue concerning the attacks on Shri Prakash by Mr. Dworkin, and how everyone is very is actually very helpful. I can say helpful. They're doing the best. The Ministry of External Affairs in India, Russia, the Embassy of India in Moscow, the disciples of Shri Prakash in Russia, in other countries, the support of India that we are getting. It's actually incredible. A lot of work still to do. It feels a lot of work has been done, and a lot of work still to do. I think at the end I would like to ask one interesting question, because I have a few friends who knew. I mean, they ask me this sometimes, and I thought, why not I ask you, Frank, because you have been living in Germany for a very long time, and also interested in yoga, Indian culture. The question is the similarity between German language and Sanskrit. It's actually a very interesting topic. Like it deserves a separate interview, I must say, a separate episode of our interview. But in short, like for example, I've heard of similarities like the fact that in Germany the metro is called U-Bahn and S-Bahn. So there is the underground called U-Bahn and then S-Bahn. And it's interesting that in Sanskrit the term for transport is Vahan, which is very similar if you consider that V might have become B after some time. So even the pronunciation is pretty much similar. For example, and many other examples like that. So what is your opinion on that? And maybe you can enlighten us a little bit about other such interesting facts concerning the linguistic similarities between Sanskrit and German.
Yeah. Yes, you are true. You are right, actually, Prasoon. Languages and linguistics is one of my little hobbies, and I like it very much to compare different languages. I have learned Russian or have started the Russian language, one of the Indo-European languages. Myself, at the age of maybe 8 or 9, I started to learn the Greek and Cyrillic letters, and started reading.
Greek. That's
Later, I had it.
I never knew that fact.
I was fortunate enough to be sent by my country, delegated as a student to go to Moscow, to one of the most sophisticated diplomatic schools in the world, the MGIMO, the Moscow State Institute for International Relations, which you're allowed to be a student at. I'm an alumni of this institution. I learned Swedish at that institution as one of my specialization topics. I'm a Scandinavist, specialist in Scandinavian studies. And at that time, where we also studied history of the Vikings, of the Scandinavians, of the German nations, German tribes. In a little book I read that in one of the Viking ships, there was found a Shiva statue.
That's interesting.
Indicated the researcher who made a paper on that. He set up the thesis that probably the old Vikings, when they made voyages over the oceans, that they also came to India, or there was probably some interconnection between
the Vikings and
between India and Northern Europe. So probably, maybe there was something like that. But I think if you take, let's say, the modern German language or the modern Russian language, modern Slavic languages, and other German languages like English, Swedish, let's say Dutch, there are many words which are similar with Indian Sanskrit words. Let's say the word apa or ap, which is water. Yes. There are many, let's say in Russian language, you have the word op or ap, of, af, which is included in many descriptions of the names of rivers or lakes or something which is connected with water, or tree, which is derevo in Russian, or in German we have a word which is a very old word for a tree, which is tarp or terb. It's also contained in English, tree. We have, of course, words like mutter, mater,
exactly.
pater, vater. You might be finding many other words like maybe sun, sonne, sonce.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And one more interesting thing is the verb to breathe in German is atmen, and it sounds a lot like the Sanskrit word for the soul, atma. So
yeah, that's true.
There is some similarity even in that. It has always mesmerized me how.
Also another German word which is has several meanings. It's odem, atem, and odem. Odem is a more spiritual expression of breathing. Yeah, it's connected with the soul. That's the one you are speaking about.
Yeah, exactly. But a lot of these similarities, and it's interesting. I mean, this deserves a separate, as I said, a separate actually episode of a separate interview, because it's such an interesting topic. Like, we can do a little bit research on this and come up with another interesting interview whenever you have time, whenever I have time. I think the viewers will like it. The viewers will like it. The viewers are going to like it a lot. I mean, for all the questions that I had planned for today, I have finished asking them. But maybe you have something to say to our viewers who are going to, who are going to listen to this interview, like what is the most important? Like we are living in the times are not really easy right now, and maybe you want to share some message with the viewers.
Yes.
Very
Very good. Okay.
Yeah.
Prasoon, first of all, thank you very much for being together with you here, and great questions. I had a good time with you.
Well, same here.
During the time of pandemic, I think it's a very good time when we are staying at home or working at home to spend some more time for our spiritual development, to sit down, spend some 5 or 10 minutes daily to go into your inner world. Just breathe or remember your mantra if you have one. If you don't have one, I can recommend you take this book. It's called Darshan, the Glance of Sadhguru. It's one of my favorite books. It was issued a few years ago by a group of disciples of our spiritual teacher, Shri Prakash Dham. And there are not only brilliant photographs of his life, of his satsangs, of the pujas he's giving, the Agni Puja and other Indian festivals. There are very interesting thoughts, and I would like to cite one of them, which I very much love. Listen, you should learn to be grateful and accept everything given by God as His immense mercy. And the greatest God's gift is the opportunity to be born and live on earth as human beings. This is the unique opportunity to perceive God and to unite with Him. Thank you.
A very deep thought. A very deep thought. Frank, I think today's interview will be liked a lot by all the people who are going to listen to it, see it, and I hope that we have more such interviews in future time with you, because I think these topics are always people are always interested in these topics, like Indian culture, how it is perceived in other countries, the similarities between different cultures. So I'd like to thank you for sparing your time for this interview, and stay healthy and take care of yourself, your family. Like all the times, I think this time is also going to pass, and then we will start to live our normal lives. Let's hope for the best. And thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Frank.
My pleasure. Thank you very much as well, Prasoon. It was great to speak to you. I wish you health and luck as well. And many greetings to our big spiritual family.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank.
Regards from Berlin to Moscow and to any other places where you can listen to us.
Ну все, Бхагвандас, сделали. Сделали.
Окей.
Богу.
Вы там вырезаете?
Да?
Хорошо, да?
Все было отлично, вообще супер. Надо будет про Тери убрать чуть-чуть, потому что, ну, это мы как бы третью сторону, да, называем. Ну как? Или спросить у него, можно ли про него говорить. Если он скажет да, тогда... И, мне кажется, уберем то, что вот эти threads. И, короче, вот эту речь, которая именно конкретно речь в ООН была, мы ее сделаем, ну, меньше.
Делайте,
интересно
вырезайте ненужные вещи.
Самое